Hello and welcome to SNK Tuition. Today we're going to be looking at rearranging formulas to change the subject, and this is part one of two parts. So what will we cover today? We'll look at the basic definition of what is changing the subject, and we'll go through a couple of examples and I'll walk through the problems step by step. For revision exam practice, that will come in part 2 of the video with GABECE and BECE questions. So stay tuned for that. So what is changing the subject? All it means is rearranging a formula. You'll be given a formula in the question. So a particular term or a particular letter is by itself on one side. So we have some rules to remember, which I'll run through quickly, but they'll make more sense as we're going through the examples. So step 1 is identify the operations happening on the side of the new subject. So operations, by operations we mean multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. And on the side of the new subject, that means the letter or the algebraic term you want to get by itself. Step 2, identify which term is the easiest to move. Step 3, take this term to the other side using the opposite operation. In step 4, repeat this until the new subject is by itself. So let's go through an example. And we have our rules to remember here in the corner so that we can refer to them as we're going through each question. Make x the subject of the formula 3d equals x minus 4. So step 1 is to look at the side where the new subject is. So here we're making x the subject. So we have 3d is equal to x minus 4. Now here we can see that this is an operation, minus 4. So we are subtracting 4 as one of our operations, and that's the only operation we can see. So then step 2, identify which term is the easiest to move. So there is only one term here that we can move to the other side, and that is minus 4. So we've identified that it's minus 4, so I'm just going to use a different colour. We know that we have to move this to the other side. It says take this term to the other side using the opposite operation. So we know the opposite of minus is plus. So we add 4. Now, minus 4 plus 4 on this side, it cancels to leave x by itself. And then that leaves 3d plus 4 is equal to x. Now, to write this as our final answer, you would write x is equal to 3d plus 4. Although you'd still get it correct if you wrote it like this, it's better to just have the new subject on the left side. Okay, example number 2. Make C the subject of the formula Cn plus 2 equals 4v. Now this one's a little trickier because there are actually two operations going on. So identify the operations happening on the side of the new subject. So we have Cn plus 2 equals 4v. So we're looking here. Immediately we can see that there is plus 2, and we can see here that there is also C multiplied by n. Okay, so we have two things going on. Now it says identify which term is the easiest to move. Now to me it looks like the thing that it'll be easiest to move first is this plus 2 here. So underneath I'll rewrite it Cn plus 2 equals 4v. So I know that I want to move this. I've identified that it is an addition operation that is happening, and I know I need to do the opposite now according to step 3, so minus 2. So this now makes Cn, because plus 2 and minus 2 cancel, and that leaves 4v minus 2. Now I have to look at Cn and I have to move this n to the other side because we're repeating these steps until the new subject is by itself. So we know that this is multiplication, but now we need to do the opposite and we need to divide by n. Okay, so when we are dividing, we don't just divide one term, so we don't just divide 4v by n, we have to divide everything by n. So that leaves c is equal to 4v minus 2 over n. Is the new subject by itself? Well, we're looking for c to be the subject and it is by itself on this side, so yes, we have successfully gone through all the steps and isolated c to make it the new subject. Example 3. Make y the subject of the formula w equals y over x. So step 1, immediately I can see here that all that's happening on the side of the new subject, which is y, is that we are dividing by x. Now when I'm rewriting this, I know that w equals y over x. I know that the easiest term to move is x, because that's the only term on the side, the only other term on the side with y. So I know I need to move that. So I'm moving it over here. Now I identified earlier that it was divide, and according to step 3, I need to take it to the other side using the opposite operation. So opposite of division is multiplication, so I'm now going to times by x. So this leaves me with wx is equal to y. When we're writing our answer, we would write this as y equals wx. And y is by itself, so we don't need to repeat any more steps. Now our last example is rearrange to make h the subject of the formula. I equals a half hj. Now immediately I can see that there is a fraction here, and this means 1/5 is multiplied by h, which is multiplied by j. Now if I rewrote this out, it would look like this, is multiplied by h, which is multiplied by j. So actually that is equal to hj, or 1hj over 5. Now we don't need to write the h. I was just showing you that when we multiply the fraction out, that is what it that is the process that is happening. As you can see, this is a lot easier now to work with rather than dealing with the fraction separately. So now I can do step 1, identify the operations happening on the side of the new subject. Well, h is the new subject, so we have here dividing by 5, and here we have h multiplied by j. Step 2, identify which term is the easiest to move, or which one is the most appropriate to move. I think right now this dividing by 5 is most appropriate to move so that we're not having to deal with this division. So I take this to the other side. Now having identified that it's division, I know the opposite operation according to step 3 is multiplication, so I multiply by 5. So I rewrite this as 5i is equal to hj. Okay, now I have to repeat this until the new subject is by itself. So now we're dealing with j, and we know that this was multiplication as identified here in step 1. So now we go to step 3, we take it to the other side by using the opposite operation, which is division. So we're now dividing by j. And again, as we said in the earlier example, we have to divide everything by j on the other side. So I'm just going to write it up here. So that leaves 5i over j is equal to h. And if I wanted to write it as my answer, just to be clear, I would write h is equal to 5i over j. So I ran through all the steps. So as you can see, rearranging is actually very simple as long as you know how to identify the operations happening and then you take it step by step and do the opposite on the other side when you are moving the terms to the other side. So for exam practice, make sure that you wait for part 2, which is coming soon. Subscribe so that you get a notification as soon as it is uploaded. For more maths content, follow us on Instagram, which is snk.tuition. Thank you and see you soon.